phases of market development. You hear about cycles in the market, and the cycle thing is, that's another phase. That's another thing I'm an expert in that's useless. Cycle analysis. And I'm sure, I do think there are cycles in the market. The problem with cycles, we've got a lot of problems with cycles. First of all, it does tend to get you into that predictive mindset. And you really want to avoid, like the plague, anything that puts you in a predictive mindset. And that's another reason I don't like indicators, because if I'm looking at an oscillator, I start predicting what's going to happen based on that oscillator instead of paying attention to the development and the condition of the market and reading the market. But the guys that are the cycle guys, and there are different schools. You have the delta people, and you have what else? You have the fib time cycles, and you have all this stuff. The problem with that, you get into all this fuzziness. It's like Elliott wave. If a wave count doesn't work, it becomes a complex correction with X, Y, Z's. And it was really this. We thought it was that, but it's really this. Therefore, it's going here. Well, that's the same thing with cycles. Cycles invert. There's right-hand translation. There's left-hand translation. And what happens is you get sucked into this state of mind that has nothing to do with trading. And it becomes a game of figuring out the cycle and matching the market to the cycle. It's pointless. So what? There are, however, the market is cyclical to a point, but in a dynamic way. And it's the way we view the market. The market constantly, if you want to use the word cycles, it cycles between balance and imbalance in an ongoing process in all degrees of time. But it's a dynamic process, and we don't try to constrain it by putting specific dates or specific counts on it. But as sure as I can show you, and you guys can see yourselves already, even the newest of you should be able to look at a chart now and see balance and imbalance. And just being able to view the market with that perspective is a great start. It's progress, trust me. And auction markets are always in one or the other of these two degrees, or one of these two phases. And you have phases, you have of an intermediate term degree of balance, you're going to have shorter term periods of vertical development, etc., all the way down the time scale. So what we're doing is we're trying to identify a larger degree phase of development, find a shorter degree phase of development that enables us to define the situation and define a trade idea that has a positive expectancy and be consistent in that approach. And the other thing that's unique is that you naturally find yourself doing positive things. You're not a one-trick pony where you have this particular money management scheme that you're going to try to overlay or force onto the market every single day, where you've got your special trading platform that you paid a lot of money for set up so that it automatically puts you in the market, it automatically takes you out at 6 ticks, and it automatically trails your stop. That's an artificial scheme that's imposed on the market. And it's a strategy that's going to work under certain market conditions, but it's most certainly a strategy that is not going to work a lot of the time. It will devolve into randomness. This forces you, it actually doesn't force you, it leads you naturally into developing strategies and tactics to meet the phase of development you're trading. You don't have to force it. It happens naturally. It's just intuitive. If once you begin to see the market through this lens, that you're going to trade a balanced situation differently than you're going to trade a situation that's trending. This is trading market condition. So imbalance or vertical development, it's one-sided trading. Either the buyer or the seller, but not both, is clearly in control. And this is a situation where value is unknown in the degree of time that is developing vertically. In a balanced situation, it's a two-sided market. Neither the buyer nor the seller is clearly in control. Neither one of them. It's a standoff. Now, you will have two-sided markets that are not particularly tradable. That's fine. You know, when you look at a market and you can't tell what's going on, it's some form of two-sided trading. It's not necessarily the nice, neat, tradable balance areas that we want to find, but it's some form of two-sided. If you can't tell, if you look at a market for more than 5 seconds and you look at it and you say, that's two-sided trading, but it may not be tradable. You can recognize a market that is in vertical development immediately. It doesn't take a lot of thought process. My 10-year-old can do it. You can recognize a market that is in a nice, neat balance area. It doesn't take a lot of practice to learn to do it. But when you look at a market and it's sort of all over the place, it's two-sided trading, but it's not necessarily tradable. So not all, you know, you should and you will over time be able to look at a market and know beyond a, you know, with a high probability what phase that market is trading. But you're never going to get to the point where you can look at every single market in all time frames and know how to trade it, or that it's tradable. And if you know that itself is invaluable knowledge. You just go look at another market and let that thing calm down. There are times where, you know, one market or another just goes nuts. It's not tradable. And that's some sort of two-sided, wide-range dogfight between the big money buyers and the big money sellers. And you know, this bell curve Gaussian shape thing that was part of the initial, was actually the genesis of the market profile concept, specifically this Gaussian statistical distribution that Stonemaier came up with. I mean, he talks about it. Is way overplayed and misunderstood. You know, we do get that shape, and first of all, it's not Gaussian. It's sort of Gaussian. You know, and I'm not a statistician. I know just enough math and statistics to be dangerous. But technically, your mathematicians will tell you that it's not really, you know, what we're looking at is not a perfectly standard distribution. The tails are too fat and other things. And there's too much incidence near the mode, too. But, again, that's beside the point. The point of this is that the people that try to take this and hammer it into this perfect substitute for a statistical distribution are missing the point also. That's not what this is about. It does have the regression characteristics of a statistical distribution, but you need to understand the characteristics. It's not about, you know, this rote application of a statistical distribution, the bell curve thing. Markets are constantly in transition from one phase to another, balance, imbalance, balance, imbalance. They tend to form a very consistent process of development during this process of transition, and this is what gives us an edge. We're identifying a market phase of larger degree than the one we're trading, and then we take the one we're trading and identify trade opportunity. That is all we're doing. Now we talk about a three-step process, and this is sort of an evolution from Stoudemire's four-step process. And Stoudemire's initial four-step process, the concept was that the market would form basically a nice, neat statistical distribution, and it took 4 steps to do it. Well, the reality is that doesn't work. It never did. But this 3-step process is a nice guideline, and it does pretty much. There are a lot of times where, I mean, it's just textbook. But you're not trading a 3-step process. You're trading a dynamic process of trade facilitation based on the concept of value as determined by market participants. And this does tend to follow this 3-step process. But I don't want you to think, oh, wow, here is all I need to do. I need to take notes here because I'm just going to follow these three steps. It doesn't always work out as neatly as we would prefer. Sometimes it can be very, very clear. Some of the times it's not. As Raj has already shared with us, over time, what you see and what you understand becomes clear, and you will understand and you will see more and more. But for now, just trade within yourself. Trade what you understand. Over time, you will develop as sophisticated an understanding as your aptitude allows of this process, and then you will be able to add more nuance to your trading. Your goal here is not to be the perfect trader, because first of all, you'll never be the perfect trader. The goal here is to take these concepts and to be the best trader you can be to meet your goals. There are things that you can use in here that are very simple concepts that recur over and over and over that would be enough, more than enough, for you to meet any trading goal you can ever imagine. You don't think that you have to be able to read a market exactly like anybody else, me or anybody else. You don't have to do that. So the 3-step process, it begins with a vertical range. And it begins with a potential high and a low. I say potential because you don't know if it's a high or low until what happens. Until it stops, but not even that, until it's tested again in the same time frame, right? And this is really important. You don't have to chase, people want to sell the top tick of a strongly trending market or buy the bottom tick of a strongly declining market. It's unnecessary. The odds are overwhelming that that particular momentum peak will be tested and that you'll have some balance form in some time frame, and you don't have to go in and guess. So the process begins with a potential high and low, and then prices begin to rotate through a range from high to low and vice versa. And this is part of the auction process. And this is the process that confirms what was here initially potentially the higher low. It confirms the higher low as the auction extremes. And then this process, as it continues, it establishes areas of relative value where prices will tend to spend more or less time. And when one auction completes, another begins. So here's your step 1. We have an auction low, a potential auction low extreme, and an auction high extreme. And then we have development that begins. We have development across the horizontal axis, and this involves rotation. It involves randomness. It involves trade facilitation. I have my unfair highs up here. The upper extreme are unfair highs, the lower extreme are unfair lows. And the market, and understand, this is a schematic. It's a nice, neat drawing. The market, unfortunately, is not going to accommodate us with these nice, smooth moves constantly from low to high. The market will, cannily and consistently in a balance area trade from high to low, but it doesn't do it like I have it drawn here. It's more inclined to do it something like this. That's not what I want. Hold on, got the wrong tool. We'll go down here, and then it'll flounder around. It might even extend the extreme, and then it comes back up here, and it moves around and goes back up, and and it looks much more random than this nice, neat drawing. Understand that. But you just saw a live example of it in the Canadian dollar, as a matter of fact. Speaking of Canadian dollar. Here it is. So here was that balance area that we were talking about. And this actually was a pretty consistent, high, low to high, back to low. But you can see it's not like you come down and hit the exact tick every single time, or go up and hit the exact high every single time. This was really a wonderful example, but it's also, this was a pretty clean balance area, as balance areas go, as was this. But this is the concept. You have a balance area that forms, and you have price on one scale and you have time on the other. And we trade, we talk about trading market condition, and market condition is trading the development process of the market. And when you use the term development, implicit in development is a time function. Nothing can develop without time, whether it's building a house or baking a cake or whatever, or a market forming a balance area. There's a time function. And this time function, it can be your friend, and you need to understand it, and it can help you trade and know what to expect with your trades. If you have a developing balance area and you get in a trade, you might be more willing to take that partial profit at an extreme if that balance area is relatively it appears to be in its early stages, of a bar or two, or a day or two, or something like that. That's an understanding of time. It's how you're going to be using time in your, not just, well, you use it in all facets of your trading and auction market concepts, because time is an important component. So we've got development, your price plus time equals value. We've talked about that. That's the basic equation of value. Price at time, the amount of time price spends in an area gives it its value. So an auction has a range of relative value because of the amount of time price spends at that area. The less time, the less value. The more time, the more value. So this defines value, defines trading situations for us, the area of fairest value and unfair value. And this gets back to time too. This good trade location is here, and the reason this is a non-random area relative to the rest of the range is because of the time factor. The market is not going to stay in unfair value for long. Why? Why? Because An auction market doesn't do that. An auction market is designed to facilitate trade, so it's not going to stay at an unfair value for long. It's elegantly, inherently designed to try to find value, so it will move away from unfair value. So step 3 in the phase of development is what we want to be consistently trying to identify, and it's what we want to trade. It gives us the highest probability, well, two things. It gives us the highest probability trade opportunities, and it gives us the highest expectancy trade opportunities. And probability and expectancy are two different things. Probability is a function of the expectancy, but they're not the same thing. But when you're trading at the extremes of both time and structure, you have really the best of both worlds. You have the highest probability trades and the highest expectancy trades. The auction market process is robust. Y'all are going to hear me say this until you can't stand it, but it is. And it's what gives it its edge, and it's what you must understand inside and out to be able to take advantage of the methodology. And the balance area concept gives a tremendous amount of information, and not just trading information. It helps you read a market. It helps you to identify the market, the trend of the market in an objective and consistent manner in any market in all time frames. Whether if you've never looked at a chart of palladium in your life, you should, even now, be able to look at a chart of palladium and find balance areas and to determine what the degree, what the phase of development is on a long-term, intermediate-term, and short-term time frame. Questions? Phase 3, small summary. Absolutely. Okay, we have a balance area, right? And then we have a phase of vertical development. We have a breakout. Step 1. And then we have an old market profile parlance, and this is still valid. Then we have a market that begins to become two-sided. We have a stopping price. And the stopping price is, actually, it's seldom the high extreme. It will tend to, a lot of times, turn into the midpoint of a balance area. So you have a stopping price, and you get some retracement. And then you have maybe a little slightly higher high. And then that's rejected, and you get some retracement. And then you have this begin to occur. Now, at this point, you have really good evidence. You have reason to believe that this is a step 3. And step 3 is what we're trading. Step 3 is this. This this is this, and an increasingly mature situation. And then we have our unfair highs. We have our unfair lows, and we will develop a high volume node, just like we did here. And this is what we did in the example we looked at the Canadian dollar. We identified basically a step 3. We started out under an assumption. If you go back and you listen to the example that we used, our assumption was, hey, this thing's going to trade lower because the conviction is down on the daily chart. But at this level, you've got to be somewhat, well, not somewhat, you have to be objective, and you have to take the breakout. You have to assume this is going to lead to an initiative move in the direction of the breakout, if it's of large enough degree. Now, if in a situation like this, there is a clear bias to the downside because of the degree of the structure. But this is this is a 7 or 8 day structure, so it's a substantial structure. Now, if you recall, and you can go back and you can listen to our conversation when I started the process, we had conviction down against, this was a balancer that was forming against conviction over here. But if this market is going to trade initiatively, and I'm trading, especially if I'm trading in the intraday time frame, if I'm going to trade it, I got to go with it. I can't fade this just to rote fade it. Now, I can make the choice of saying, well, if this breaks to the upside, I'm not comfortable going long because of what's going on over here. But if you're consistent in your application of trading these structures of multi-day duration, you're going to be fine, and you don't have to sweat overthinking the breakout. Just trade them. And in this situation, the reality is, depending on where your initial entry was, you didn't lose money, and you probably made a little bit. And you certainly, if you traded this per the book, so to speak, you did really well. So, Michael, does that clear that up? Yeah, Christine, I am. Actually, if you go back and you listen, I think wasn't it? I can't remember, session 2 or session 1. I basically went through it. Now, I don't have that in writing, but yeah, I've got to do that because it's way overdue. Yes, I promise you, by the end of this course, you will have a complete glossary. How's that? Michael, step 2 is the stopping price. Step 2 is the initial beginning of step 3. One is vertical development. Step 2 is is technically the stopping price. It's the point at which the market initially becomes two-sided. And then step 3 is when that two-sidedness has established a defined range. Anything else, guys? A lot of stuff tonight. There's a lot of material in here. And as I told you, we were going to have to put off the part of what I had planned to do tonight until next time, but that's okay. I'd rather be thorough than rush through stuff. So guys, thanks a ton. This was a great session. I'm really pleased with this, and it's because of you guys. You asked great questions. Yeah, we're going to do more of this, Ed. I think that's very helpful. We'll do a lot more of this. So guys, have a super evening, and we will see you in the morning. I will have the DVSA out within 30 minutes. So if you just can't wait for more market information, give me 30 minutes. Good night, guys.